going to invite Professor Montoya for his presentation. Before that, I would tell you a little bit about Professor Milton Fernando Montoya.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I can. So, just a brief introduction. Professor Milton Fernando Montoya is the director of the Department of Mining and Energy Law and the Energy Transition Observatory at the Esternado University of Colombia. Is of counsel at Orland and Knight and an advisor to various Colombia government agencies on mining and energy matters. An honorary lecturer at the University of Dundee. He has taught at the University of Durham University and others. Professor Montoya is a board member of the Colombia Mining and Petroleum Lawyers Association and the president of the Latin American Network of Mining Law. He holds a law degree from External University, a master's in energy law from ISE Madrid, and a PhD from Complutense University, and completed his postdoctoral studies at the University of Dundee. Professor Montoya, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you, Professor Adenike, for the invitation, and I'm very glad for being here. Well, I'm going to share some conclusions that we draft on the book, considering all these, let's say, bottlenecks that Professor Jose Juan has previously announced on his presentation. So the first big conclusion on the book is that definitely we require a nexus governance approach at international, regional, and local levels when we talk about the reaching the net zero goals in every single country. What does it mean? It means that at the national level, we cannot manage, or we cannot reach all targets related with net zero objectives regarding energy transition without considering every single key driver at the stake. And what are those key drivers? The environmental driver, the social driver, the economic driver, the justice driver as well, the technology driver, and of course, on my opinion, and this is something that I really believe, considering the countries that owns this kind of natural resources and the countries that still need to exploit these natural resources in order to bring prosperity to the society. So considering the energy justice and is the concept about what are we going to make a difference between the energy transition and net zero goals between countries on the global south and the countries in the global north. But this is something that I really believe, because I'm coming from a country that belongs to the global south with a lot of natural resources, like maybe yours in Africa. And we have the idea on, or under my opinion, it's not fair that we have to leave all these resources on the ground. And at the same time, we really have the urgent need to bring more prosperity and equality to our people. So definitely, in order to reach the net zero goals, a nexus governance approach is required, yeah, and not only from the national perspective. For instance, in the book, we also say that we need a nexus governance approach at the international perspective. And what does it mean? It means exactly what I said before, that there must be some agreements between the countries in the north and the countries in the south in order to support how the south countries are going to develop or are going to exploit these natural resources in a responsible way, of course, from the environmental perspective and from the social perspective, but or how the international community is going to support that some countries do not exploit these resources, but in exchange they are going to support any financial resources, or as Jose Juan was mentioning before, or support in investigation and research and technology development, well, or in other in infrastructure or in other areas. But the reality is that these kind of agreements are not really are not a reality right now at the international level. So there is a huge challenge there about how to coordinate this interest to reach the net zero goals with the right of development in the global south. And the same at local level. Sometimes in our countries we have problems of coordination between the national authorities and the local authorities. Coordinations in terms of use of the soil, problem coordinations in terms of challenge in the environmental licensing, problems related with social license to operate, lack of infrastructure, not a robust and a strong presence of national authorities in the territories, some maybe differences about the perspective of development of the local communities and the people who takes the decision at national level. So there is also a need to coordinate this governance in terms of use of natural resources between the national level and local level within the countries. So this Nexus approach to integrated management of natural resources include 5 core features that we describe on the book. The first one is the integration of instruments. The integration of instruments refers to every single legal instrument that could be useful to reach net zero goals and promote energy transition should be taken in consideration. And this includes the tax regulation, environmental regulation, of course, the energy and mining and oil regulation, the social regulation, the infrastructure regulation, technology, among others. The second feature is the integration of institutions. We definitely believe, we think in our own way, of course, that only mining and energy authorities are the responsible about leading the energy transition in our countries, and this is definitely not true. We need to coordinate the efforts and responsibilities for in every single authority that has to take any decision or any relevance considering energy transition. And of course, it includes environmental authorities, it includes authorities with responsibilities on managing communities, tax authorities, it includes as well authorities that promotes the foreign investment and investment in the natural resources industries. It includes, of course, authorities with responsibilities in terms of development of technology and innovation, among others. Okay. The third feature is the information sharing. We see that usually the countries are not sharing information between its own authorities, yeah, and sometimes actually, like in Colombia, used to happen some years ago. There were granted mining contracts in areas that were protected from the environmental perspective, correct? So this this took us to international disputes on arbitration courts that unfortunately take us to lose this arbitration and to pay important or considering amounts of money to the investors. So this is key. This is very important to have a clear, on time, transparent, and strategic sharing of information between authorities in order to avoid any lack or any problem related with the decisions that governments are taking in terms to promote energy transition. And this is something also important in order to take technical decisions related with energy transition. We believe that energy transition is not only it's not only a matter related with public policy, but it's a matter very connected with technical basis, with technical reasons, with technical basis that should be considered in order to take these political, these public policy decisions that are going to lead the country and to make it progress into the energy transition. So it should not be just like steps or decisions based on political motivations, but on technical motivation. And here is where the sharing of information is very important. On the fourth place, the development of proper infrastructure and technology and technological solutions. Definitely, the world is challenging. Maybe right now, the next energy transitions in terms, for instance, of the hydrogen industry. Correct, but hydrogen industry is still not a feasible solution for countries like in the global south. So we still have to rely on traditional energy solutions, but at the same time, we should, on the parallel time, at the same time, we should also make progress in developing technological solutions for in the near future that could maybe change this mix of energy of traditional energy that we used to implement based on coal, based on natural gas. Yeah, actually, even in some countries based in water. Here in Colombia, we produce electricity based on 69% of water, or relying 69% of our electricity comes from water. And it seems that the Colombian society doesn't want to build big dams again, correct? So we want also to maybe consider other types of producing electricity different to water. Despite water is key in our energy matrix, but the technological solutions give us the answers maybe to diversify the way that we are producing electricity. And it also applies to technologies like CCUS as well, hydrogen, as I already mentioned, the development of batteries based in lithium. And here there is, of course, like a dilemma about how to make workable the urgent need of new minerals and more minerals to develop all the infrastructure that is required for energy transition, like solar, like wind power, like actually the transmission infrastructure, the batteries. So this is a reality. Without mining, there is no energy transition. So how are we going to make compatible these two industries? And finally, the international coordination and cooperation that I already mentioned before. I really believe that there is a need of a conversation between the global north and the global south in terms about how are we going to coordinate the need and the right of development of countries in the global south with and in terms to use and exploit his natural resources, like mining resources, like oil and gas resources, with these targets related with decarbonization and with net zero. That now that the last report of the International Energy Agency seems that maybe at 2050, it seems that we are not going to reach these net zero goals. But however, we have to move forward in order to make progress to try to reach this goal, but at the same time to, at least in the global south, to develop and to use in a responsible way our natural resources like mining and oil and gas. So this would be like the main conclusions in the message of our book. So thank you for the invitation, and I'm very open to solve questions or comments.